Department of Home Affairs, and he joins us live from our Pretoria studios. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, good to you and as well as the viewers.
The South African Tourism Association has been very critical about the new visa regulations. They say they're costing the country jobs and economic growth. Your response?
Yeah, well, as you have indicated, that the tourism from 2013 to 2014 has grew up by 0.1%. It means there was a growth, is not a decline, as we have been saying as a department, that it is still too early for people to say the tourism will be affected severely. And as a department, we're saying, yes, there might be an impact here and there, but at this point in time, no one can be able to say how it will be. But the figures now which were shown by the State South Africa are exactly supporting what we are saying. And we're also saying here that globally, things are not going well. As you are aware now that if you look at the economic infrastructure that people in countries, their economy is going down, surely it will affect other things like tourism. So as a department, we are looking at the report, and as Minister have said, we are continuing to look at where can we ease certain things, because our interest as well is to grow the economy of this country, but we cannot do that with a total neglect of the security issues, because we don't believe that you can have a tourism which will be growing if your security is bad.
What has your department done with regard to request for a meeting to discuss some of these issues with regards to hindrances of travelers? For example, the parents who travel with their children coming to this country.
Well, if you can go to our website, you will see there that there is a clear explanatory note to explain to people what do you need to do if you'll be traveling with a child, so that now people can understand what we are talking about. And then recently, I have met with the DG of acting DG of tourism, and as well as other people of the industry. And there's still another scheduled meeting which we have around end of August, in order for us to be able to deal with things as people they are raising. You will recall that since the implementation of these regulations, in particular around children, as at 1st of June, there are already changes which we're putting in the department. One of those is to say now, if a person cannot get an unabridged birth certificate but he has applied for it, he can come to the Department of Home Affairs and will give a letter in lieu of an unabridged birth certificate. So there are various interventions which we are putting in place. Minister also was on record to say now, as a department, we are working flat out to make sure that now we will be implementing a system which will allow us to capture fingerprints and a photo at the ports of entry. And once that happens, then we'll be able now to see what are other things which you can ease in the process. Already in China, we had 2 centers of capturing of the visas, but now we're already having 4. So everything is changing day by day as we go forward. That's why, as a department, we welcomed the report which was issued around this thing of tourism. In fact, on the City Press on Sunday, they were issuing the same State South Africa, which sectors are losing jobs. The highest sector which is losing jobs is mining and others. Tourism was there at the bottom. It's not the only sector as well. All other sectors are doing the same.
Mr. Apleni, just before you go, regarding the statistics concerning child trafficking, what proof hitherto that you are using this legislation to curb child trafficking, people leaving the country with children without consent of their spouses and the likes?
I'm happy that we have raised this question. I hope now that today we'll put it into rest. It is not correct that we based solely our regulations based on child trafficking. That can't be correct. Let me explain now to you, and you must go and get this thing and read it. A Children's Act of 2005 requires that a child, when he's applying for a passport, both parents must sign. Secondly, it said if a child is traveling outside the border with one parent, another parent must give a consent. That is Children's Act of 2005. And then Home Affairs dealt with the regulations and the Act as 2011. They were only implemented on 2014. So people deliberately, they are misleading the public to say our basis to change this, it was only solely on the basis of the child trafficking. However, the Children's Act is to prevent that. And we're on record to say whether a child who has been trafficked is 1 or is 10 or is 5,000, one child trafficked is too many to us.
Okay, Mr. Apleni, just before you go, I had an interview with a family, a gentleman who was traveling with his 3 children, was traveling from Montreal to Amsterdam, then to South Africa. But the problem was, even though his wife had given consent, the travel regulations didn't tell whether or not he also had to have a copy of the ID of the mother, and it had to be signed. Why are the rules changing as and when people travel? Because he had to travel back to Montreal and he had to travel back to Amsterdam as well.
No, you don't say the rule is changing. Say the people are not able to apply the rules. The rules are clear. The rule is saying if you are traveling with a child, you need to have a passport. If you are not traveling with a child, you must have a consent from one parent. But if somebody there is applying the rule wrongly, you can't say it has been changed. As an example, a rule is clear to say when you drive your car, you must only cross when it is green. But if now somebody cross when it is red, you can't say the rules have been changed. It's the people who are not applying the rule correctly.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us. Let's leave it there. Director General of the Department of Home Affairs speaking to us live from our Pretoria studios.